Hi, I on air again. What you just saw are my friends I visited in July in Egypt, in Cairo. It was my first trip during the lockdown, and it was not my first and not my last trip, of course. And with this topic, traveling through lockdown, I jump into the hottest topic of my life. I think this also makes me a little bit or quite nervous because I was thinking it through many times, and you realize how much you forget during 1 year. So many things happen, time is just getting a wild. I like a big sausage, a sausage dog moving slowly through the street. And I tried to find some hooks and cues to start this live stream, and sometimes I thought, my God, I don't do this because it's too difficult. So here we are, we do it anyway. So I start with a very concrete story. We are here in our studio. We call it Studio Spell. Spelling is a little bird, a sparrow in English, and it is a bird. Birds play a very important role in my life. Therefore, I think it's a good name for this studio, which was meant to be a shop. On the 29th of February last year, we opened this shop. This was my dream. For years, I wanted to have a little shop for my little baby, Beastmilch, which will be part of my shows in many ways in the following months to come. So we opened this shop. Friends have been here. We had really fun. We were relaxed, and we made plans about what to do with this beautiful place, this old building. It was built in around 1750, so it's really big walls. It really breathes history. So history, and we are in history. Now we look back for 1.5 years, and what happened? So many things happened that I almost can't remember anymore. So we started on the 29th, okay, 29th, then there was March. This year we didn't have the 29th, so this is symbolic, very symbolic. I think it fits. So on the 10th of March, I didn't know this anymore, by the way, I looked it up. The WHO was announcing the pandemic of COVID-19. The term was coined and used all over the world until now. I think if you talk about COVID, you almost don't find anybody who doesn't know what it means, not in detail, but that it is connected with restrictions, with rules, with fear, with social distancing, with taking care. It's dangerous. This, I think everybody knows. Whether this is true or not is another story. So on the 16th of March, we in Austria had our first official lockdown. If I honestly, I don't really remember what it was like. I only know there was this problem of toilet paper because people were panicking, buying stuff. Spaghetti was something, the supermarket was empty. Toilet paper, no toilet paper. Soap, things like this, as if people had never used toilet paper and soap before. Amazing. So maybe because it's quite good that they know to use disinfectants now. Sorry. So this was our lockdown. In the supermarket, I remember there have been masks. I'm sorry I forgot these masks at home. Next time I will show you the masks. They were weird creatures. So not like today, everybody wears FFP2 masks here in Austria. We are obliged to do so. They had all sorts of styles, and so in the supermarket it was like with a tweezer, like this. They gave us the mask. But I don't remember that I took one. I never took one, I think, and nobody, at this time, nobody complained yet. So this was our first lockdown, and in April we were still waiting. I think the restaurants have been closed already, and we were speculating what would come. And it was announced that masks will be obligatory, and then everything will go back to normal. We know now that this was not true at all. But as I thought, okay, I have friends in Egypt. I have a close friend who is working in Bahrain, and I wanted to bring him here to Austria to work for me. And we already started to have all these issues with visas. So I thought, easy, I go to Cairo, fly to Cairo, meet up with the guys, and we go to the embassy, and we push this with the visa. Yeah, it sounds like easy, but it was not that easy. So I planned my trip. It was July, and I booked a flight. I booked a flight, yes. And what I wanted to show you, I came to the airport. Well, all my photos here. This was in Vienna airport, nothing. But amazingly enough, no masks at that time and no test. I just flew there. In Cairo, I got out of the plane. No, at the airport. Nobody asked me PCR or something like this, nothing. I arrived, and there I was. And then slowly, I realized there is something like a lockdown here or rules and regulations. You saw people with masks, with no masks. You came to the hotel. They were taking your temperature, bing, bing, bing. Every time you get in and out, temperature. And they had these disinfectant sprays. You know, they were just from all sides, you were sprayed with disinfectant. But this was it at the end. And we were traveling through the city from one office to the other. We have been at the immigration. I needed another stamp for my passport, not a tourist stamp. Waiting. Only not 2 seconds, because I was immediately by officials. I was told you cannot filming. No way. Egypt is a difficult country if it comes to this. But you see here, and everybody. This is a court building, and everybody in Egypt has to go there. So social distancing was a sheer illusion there. Some with masks, some without masks. I had my boys with me, bodybuilders, so I was safe, because if I did this filming, these 2 seconds without my bodyguards, probably I would have run into big trouble. Nothing happened, so I was safe. I always had a social distancing area around me, but not because I was wanting it like this or because of the rules, but because of my strong boys around me. So this was one of this was court, then immigration, the same story. Then Austrian embassy, very difficult. You only can take appointments online. You cannot go there and just, it's weird. And everywhere you had these sprays and this temperature taken. So this was one part of my trip to Cairo, my first trip to Cairo. And but then, besides being in traffic jam and for hours and hours, because Cairo is incredible. You take for 5 kilometers, it can take you 5 hours. And so we went to the pyramids. And this is what I really have to tell you, to go to see these scenic places during lockdown is really a very, very special venture. I can show you a little bit of this. I mean, something like this you cannot experience during normal days when tourists are piling up and queuing. I would have never jumped on a camel, never ever, if during, or I probably wouldn't have gone to the pyramids at all. You see, where is my... So, here we go, you see this? This is, I mean, this is a beautiful story for me because I saw the Sphinx, I saw the pyramids, and I could take photos in a way I would have never been able to do so during otherwise a year before. So this, you see, we had a lot of fun, and I was relieved. This lockdown, this corona was not in my head at all anymore. But on the other hand, I have to say it's a double-edged sword because many, many families lost their income. I mean, the poverty in areas of Cairo is so outstanding, and if you imagine how many families don't have anything at all, sitting in the streets, don't know how to live and survive the next day. So this is my first, I mean, I have to tell you, I didn't manage to get the visa. We didn't get it. We are still in this situation that waiting and collecting papers. So it became worse and worse. And the lockdown, I think, materialized in a way I couldn't figure it out. And I saw and I felt myself how my world was shrinking, even though we were more and more connecting online, and this great change, this online revolution is under my skin in the same time. We are Zooming every day and we are doing live streams. Probably the live stream would be completely different if we didn't have the lockdown history. So I came, and then I have been in Cairo for about 1 week, and I flew back, and there was only one form I had to fill out. I kept it because it's so extraordinary. And it's an entry and transit declaration. And it's even not proper German, I'm sorry to say so. And this paper, I should have given it to the militia. But the militia guy who checked me said, oh, he doesn't care. And I took it with me as a memory. And I have several, I just want to show you, this is my travel folder with all the tests and entry permits and what you have, and it's a nice story. I will not go through all this in this live stream, but it says a lot about what the lockdown is like. And I came back home and after this I had a trip to Zurich, and I had a trip to St. Gallen by flight. This was already, of course, with PCRs, no way to move without PCRs, no way to move without a mask. And it was quite awkward, but still, I think the experience, also when it comes to social distancing, in Switzerland it was 1.5 meters, in Austria it was 1 meter, now we have 2 meters, in Egypt we had 1.5 meter, and so on and so on. So it's quite erratic. And it's not amazing that we get more and more confused and question ourselves what it is all about. And in the middle of all of this is this virus and this fear. And I question myself every other day, why do we think did the human race survive until today? Is it really like this, that a virus can be so dangerous? A virus is a particle that is not even a living being. It's not like bacteria which have its own life. A virus is absorbed by your body and connects to cells. And your immune system should be able to deal with it. And of course people get sick. We have always had sick people. It is normal, and we have like We have to develop immunity. And you know the exception of Sweden. Sweden was the only country who opposed the lockdown. And if you look at the figures, they are not any worse than everywhere else, and it didn't harm them at all. Only their economy didn't experience a breakdown like ours. And we are still worried about our situation here. I mean, we have now, I think since last week, 19th of May, our lockdown, which was lasting for several weeks, stopped. And yeah, now we will see how this works. Everybody is happy to have a vaccine. I will not talk about vaccination because it's a topic by itself. I want to tell you about my second trip to Cairo because of all the issues we had and because I wanted to get out again. The next trip was in October. In October, Sylvia, she's beside me here. If you don't see her here, she is, told me one day before my departure, you have to have a test. I said, come on, can't be true. What, a test? I didn't take her serious. I'm sorry for that. But then finally she convinced me. We checked it. Where do we check things? On Google, of course. What else?
No, it was the embassy.
Oh, it was the embassy or the foreign ministry. Something like this we called. And of course, PCR. So I got an appointment in the third district here, and I had the first up the nose, down the throat thing. Okay, PCR. Next day I had the result, it was negative. So with this negative PCR, I flew to Cairo. In Cairo, first time entering the immigration procedure, PCR. I didn't understand in the beginning because it was pronounced in a way that I didn't know what she meant, but this was one time only. On my next trips, I was at least asked 5 times for my PCR. This is how times change. So I came into Cairo with my PCR. I flew back without a test. So I had to fill out, again, a form, of course. No pre-travel clearance, electronic, nothing. And I got a little piece of paper. And this is my first entry form I had to fill out. And then I got this one. I have to go, sorry. You know what happens when you travel a lot? You have so many photos, you don't know where you are. You get so confused. But I took a photo from this little paper because it's so nice. Schnell, schnell. Here, I got this one. It says it says already checked. I got this from a militia guy. I told, and with this piece of paper, I passed. That was it. So this was my second trip. Then I had a third trip. I wanted to travel, but then I got sick. And what did I have? COVID-19. Here we go. So in short words, 5 days of being very tired. My taste changed. My appetite was not perfect, not really, or no appetite at all. My taste changed. So I had a test. I have a negative. I have a PCR. I also have proof on this. Is this the right one? Here you have my coronavirus PCR positive. Voila, I couldn't travel. And I had to get fit again. So I was around about 5 days, and then I was back to my routines, and I was over it. So for me, it was not a big deal. I know that this is not for everyone like this, but this is also something that has to do with your fitness, with your immune system, with your way of living. So if you're really a healthy person, you see, it's not such a big deal. For me, I'm a lucky person. I survived it in a very easy way. So I planned my next trip to Cairo. Then, of course, again, a PCR. I had to have a negative PCR. And we know that PCRs, it takes quite a time because it's a very sensitive test method until you get negative again. So I went to this lab again, take a test, it was positive. Oh my God, I couldn't fly. So I had already booked and I had to cancel my flight. This was one story. Next trip to Cairo. I had to do a PCR again. I went to the lab. It was negative. Thank God it was negative. But then I didn't get the message that my flight that I had already booked was cancelled. So I went with my PCR to the airport, checked in, came to the counter, asked, your PCR. And my PCR, because the flight was 1 day delayed, it was instead of on a Friday, it was a Saturday. They said, your PCR is too old. It was 24 hours too old, outdated. So I had to go back again. And I had to reschedule my flight, and you had to have a new PCR again. And like this, finally, I think it was end of November, I managed with a negative PCR and a positive antibody test, I managed to travel. I arrived in Cairo. At this time, at least 5 persons have been employed to ask you for your PCR. Nobody cares about antibody tests at all. So I have been in Cairo trying to do these visa things again, and we failed again. Long story, bad outcome. I came back to Austria. I wanted to travel back to Austria. We had to do this pre-travel clearance, this time electronic. The form didn't work. I couldn't send it, so I printed it out as a PDF. I wanted to get, and entering Austria, I wanted to give this to the guy, the militia guy. Very nice persons, by the way, always. Very polite, and I told him, hey, I had corona. I have a negative test. I have a positive antibody test. Does this apply for me? And here is my paper. I don't care about the paper, but sorry, we don't have a solution for you yet. You're not the only one like this, but we don't know how to handle your case. You have to go into quarantine for 10 days, and you can test yourself free after 10 days, antigen test, at this time, quick test. Honestly, I didn't do it. Off the record. So this was another trip. Then I went another trip, beginning of the year, I think it was. I went to Tunisia and to Cairo again. Where is I went to Tunisia, but look at this beautiful place. And I lived close to in the Medina, and I can tell you nobody cared about any kind of social distancing. I could go to the mall and go shopping without wearing a mask, even though the rules and regulations were official that you have to, but nobody cared. This was the restaurant with view over the city of Tunis. It was a nice, very, very nice, relaxing trip where you really felt you can breathe again. Then I came to Cairo again, but of course I had to do a PCR in Tunis again. So with this PCR, I arrived in Cairo, and again, same procedure as every time. We had a lot of fun, but we didn't achieve our goal. My trip back with a PCR again, this time in the hotel in Cairo, this time, every time you travel, the service gets better. You can do the test in the hotel. The doctor comes to your room and does the test. So very comfortable, but it costs a lot of money, actually. So I spend a lot of money on tests. So this is now when was my last trip? Yeah, since I'm now here for several weeks or months already. At least 2 months I'm without a trip to somewhere. And I already feel quite restricted, and I think I have to plan my next trip. I can only tell you the real life always looks very different to the life on paper and the rules and regulations you get handed out officially. And I always tell myself, jump into the void and try to find out what it is like. And for me, it was worthwhile to do so. And I think it helps me. It helped me a lot because now I have this file. I don't need a vaccination. I'm happy. I talk about vaccinations another time because I have a lot of vaccinations in my history as a child and as as a teenager, which I didn't know about. I was not aware what it means to have hepatitis vaccination, cholera, yellow fever, even influenza. In the beginning of the 70s, I didn't even know that it already existed, and I have 2 shots in my body. So I'm still here. My friend said, you are a vaccine miracle that you're still here. So I want to close this story with the words, please don't be too scared. We survived hundreds and thousands of years, the species of the human being. And if we were so sensitive, then there wouldn't be any humans on this globe. But what I have to recommend, look after you and after your lifestyle. I mean, it's a lot about how you live, how you eat, how you move. If you do so and you try not to be too overweight and you have no comorbidity, which is diabetes or high blood pressure and things like this, which our society has too many of, then you are on a good path to survive Corona or COVID, because this will not be the last virus that is coming into our lives. Viruses are in us. They are in our microbiome, in our gut. We need them. Not all of them are evoking any disease or infection. But I'm sure we will have another corona. It will have another name. And please don't be scared. Fear is a very bad advisor for health. There are studies that the more fear you have in your body, the weaker your system is, the less your immunity, your immune system is able to deal with the environment and to deal with viruses. This is the last word before I have my famous sheet of paper, because I know that my friend Ralph is already sitting in front of the screen and wondering whether I forget this one or not. So if you like this rather chaotic talk of mine, please like it, share it. We have to spread the news. There will be other stories. There will be more about the lockdown, because this is a complex thing and there's much more to tell about it. Give us your thoughts, maybe also the questions you have or concerns, that we can pick up your stories. We will have guests in the near future. And just a friend of mine, just to tell you, he's doing a trail run on Saturday, 300 miles, 7,000 meters altitude in one day, with my beloved business booster. I will show you. This is already part of my life. I wouldn't have survived any of my trips without this one. So, and we will talk with Peter after his trail run about his experiences, because if you want to do a race like this, you have to be a special person. So please stay tuned. We have Bist.com, we have a magazine, I have my own website, Swamps of Life. So I hope to see you again, and I hope to increase my expertise in speaking with you. Thank you. That was I on Air. It's my life, nothing else. Bye. Ciao.